Hello and welcome to the Student Support Portal. The portal is an online community of students, educational professionals and parents of students with a disability who want to keep up to date with the latest developments in assistive technology. For teachers who are wanting to put this in place, if you were to approach a teacher who hadn't heard of your programme, how would you explain it to them in 2 minutes?
I would say that for a teacher, this is a way to regulate a whole class, can regulate emotion and physical energy in the 10 minutes, and that we found it hugely beneficial for their concentration, for their mood, for their awareness of others. And also for their mental well-being and their own appreciation of themselves as well, and for others. I will be saying, give it a try. You will be surprised how much they access it. And I would also say, please take part. Don't just press play and let the children do it. There is something really special that happens. And time again, teachers are asking for more and more of this. You know, that's testament enough. The children are so keen for me to keep making more, they're so full of their own ideas of this. You know, they're really responsive. But just, if we can give them a toolbox as young as 5, to say, you know what your body speed is, know what your emotion is, and how you can change that if you want to. And for them to be able to start learning that as young as that, it can only be beneficial to them and us as teachers and parents. I became increasingly aware that children just weren't managing their emotions. So I've been a teacher for an awful long time, and I just felt as though I wanted to equip children to be able to be in control of their emotions, to understand them, and also to just have an awareness of being physically fit and strong, emotionally fit and strong, and how could I combine them all together. And also it was about managing behaviour in a classroom as well, when you've got 30 other children.
Okay, so I hear people talking about resilience and well-being, and there's lots of terms I hear, but where does your programme fit in all of that?
My programme would be different, I think, from other things, because it includes a lot more of the physical movement. A lot of the resilience programs that I've seen are brilliant, but they talk a lot about the emotional well-being and the mental health. So they would have the mindfulness and the learning about your own emotions. But I found that really the way in to working with children was to get them moving first. Very much this idea that the body and the mind and the breath work together as a team, and if you use all of them, you can access a lot more than if you just specifically focus on. And also I found that children didn't really want to do breathing.
Why did you make your program rather than just use a program? What's the difference in yours and off-the-shelf stuff?
I couldn't find anything that worked, is the truth, and also because because other teachers and parents and the children asked me to. We had loads of stuff that would do movement breaks. So, you know, there's loads of research showing that if children have movement breaks regularly in the classroom, then their concentration is better. But what myself and my colleagues were finding was that they would do their movement breaks, but then their body speed had gone so high because of them that we were finding that there was difficulty controlling their behaviour, getting them back on task. So what I started doing was I added on a kind of a breath flow, calming down, deep pressure, just anything that I had in my skill set, really. I started adding it onto the end of a movement break and found that I could then get them back. So it was like a balancing scales. You know, you couldn't just do one, you had to do both. And then you'd find that they were really okay for task.
Okay, so you bring them up and then you make sure you bring them
yes.
up. Right.
Yeah, because, you know, when you've got 30 kids in a class, a lot of them, they all present with different, I call it body speeds. So some are just going to be naturally lethargic, or they need brought up. And then you've got others that are really hyper, and their body speed needs to be brought down in order to function within the classroom for whatever task it would be. You know, so what I found was if I took them to both extremes as a whole class, then their own body speed would regulate to what it needed to be.
How does that tie in with resilience then? Where does that come in?
Okay, well, then I think it started, you know, from that was how it all started. And then it went to working with children specifically with additional needs that were having their specific struggles or meltdowns or emotional outbursts, and you know, maybe there'd be a lot of aggression or anger management things going on in the classroom. And I found that these things really, really benefited from those specific children. But what we then started to do was we started to talk about feelings and emotions within it. So we added that on so that, again, once the child had once their body speed was regulated, then I was able to talk to them about the meltdown that had just happened, or then I was able to talk to them about you know, what we could do different. But I couldn't do that. I needed the transition, you know, to build their own resilience. And then it got to the transition to then return back into the day, to return back to the task. Again, these were specific steps they were like stepping stones to help them get back into their day. It's because when a child's had a huge meltdown, they're exhausted, they don't want to return to stuff. They might have calmed down, but there's no way they want to then carry on with their day. And this gave them specific ways to do that. And it became so that I was having kids who were 5 years old. If I didn't have any help in the classroom and I could see that they were starting to struggle emotionally, I was able to say to them, go and pick a movement break, go and do this. And they started to independently, and I would see them going like in the breathing and doing it 3 times and doing things that I taught. And I thought, wow, these kids are actually learning this already. So they learn it so quickly, and then they help each other. There was one kid having a meltdown, and another one was saying, you need to find your anchor. Come on, I'll do the shark fin with you. And there was a 5-year-old talking through another 5-year-old, and I just watched and thought, they've learned this in a month. That's incredible.
You're going to put therapists all over the country out of business.
Yeah. And then I had parents coming in saying, you know, my daughter, she woke up with a nightmare last night, and she was in a real state, and I couldn't calm her down. And then she said, I need to find my anchor. And she said, what are you talking about? She said, Miss Ashfield taught me how to do this. And so she talked her through how to move the breath around the body and start to calm down. And, you know, and so she came in just saying, thank you. You've equipped my daughter to know in that situation how to manage that fear and that anxiety and calm herself down. And then she taught the family. So that's how it started. I started just realizing that it was building resilience. I didn't set out to create a program. It was this awareness that this was happening, and that, you know, the kids were saying to me, will you teach us more things? And the parents were saying, and other teachers were saying, how come you can manage the behavior and the emotions in your classroom and have this peaceful, how do you do that? So I started realizing that I was just quite skilled in it, and I wanted to share that. And personally, I have a lot of personal experience with autism, so that there's just acquired a lot of knowledge and experience through the years, and this is where it's landed.
Your YouTube channel, you've got lots of content on there about different topics. Where do the topics come from? Is that, again, you seeing that in class and writing a video, or how do you get those ideas?
A lot of the ideas, well, the Daily 5 is the main one. And that is working through the 5 steps. So that's the learning what our emotions are. I find that if you can name an emotion, it won't shout as loud. You've got to be able to acknowledge them, you know. So I think that teaching a child to know what they're feeling, what anger feels like, what fear feels like, what happy feels like. They just need to be able to know their feelings and name them. So that's step 1. And then the step 2 is the movement break. Children can't find their breath. Well, in my experience, children find it very difficult, and adults, to find their breath and go into kind of a breathing meditation stillness thing if they're not out of breath. It's alien for children. So I get them out of breath, and then it's much easier to access. So we do a lot of, we'll do star jumps and high knees, and we do a couple of minutes of high intensity physical exercise. And then it means that they are much more ready to breathe deeply because their body is supporting them in it. So step 3 is the breath and movement. And I add a word to this because I think that there's so much negative things that children will think about themselves, or that they've heard, or that society's placing on them. So really it's a positive word that they would take in and breathe into themselves. So I add a word to the breath. In my own classroom, I would do like word association. There's lessons you can do on this, of what courage would mean. People, realizing that people who are vulnerable are often the bravest. People, it's that appreciation of society and what different people go through. So the words come from that, really. Also, they come from the children. I ask them what they want to explore. They tell me, and I go from there. The locations that we filmed, a lot of them have come from the children's ideas. There's, they want me to be outside. They don't want me to be inside. They want me outside, and they want me in the forest and at a beach, and they want me to take them up a mountain. And so a lot of them have come from their requests. We're trying to get out on a lifeboat. That's what they would like me to go on as well. They're like, can you do it from a top of a pyramid? And I said no, but that, so they are really excited about it. And then step 4 is the finding the anchor, and that's where we sit, and something really magical happens in the room. And we sit, and there's all these children, and we put the word in the top of our head, and we breathe, and it's like an anchor going down that finds our center. And that's when we really are very still. That would be the mindful part of it. And then step 5 is the transition back, which a lot of other things that I've looked at don't do. And children need clear transitions. They need to be prepared for what's coming next. And so step 5 is returning, but knowing that you are stronger and more resilient. So that's the 5 steps. Other things that we have, you'll see on the YouTube channel, there's stillness for adults. And really, this is coming from caring for the carers. As being a teacher is hard, and you're dealing with a lot of emotional things going on in the classroom, or if there's behaviour difficulties, and where do we go with that? How do we take care of ourselves as teachers, as parents, particularly parents with additional needs, with children with additional needs? They also need to know how to take care of themselves. They are just so there is a practice of stillness to care for the carers, because they get missed. And I think that it is vital to take care of the adults. How can we take care of the children if we're not taking care of ourselves? So there's that. There's a playlist is going to be coming of specific music that will help children calm down, or can be background music. And the guy who's composed this is very aware of how, particularly again with autism or children, the sensitivity to the ears. So there's certain tones, certain notes that he's avoiding, because we know that they can cause particular pain. So it's the whole thing has been done very intentionally to create calm, gentle, not too much stimulation, but supporting, really. There's mindful walks are coming, so that if you've got a child in your class or a child at home that needs particular, take the iPad, go into the corner, put your headphones on, and just it will be visual, either forest, beach, puddles, something that can just be completely fill the screen, and then I will talk through the breath over the top of that and help them refocus, so that if you've got a child coming out of a meltdown, or one that's finding it difficult that day, it's a resource where you don't have to be with them if you've got lots of other children. And again, it gives them the strategy to know, this is what I need, so they're building independence into it. There's also going to be a one-to-one with me if a child needs to calm down. There's a particular breathing exercise where you can kind of rebalance the brain and the breath, and so it will again be it can be done as a whole class, but one-to-ones can use it. Or if a child is in a particularly heightened state, I will talk them through. Right, you're going to look at me, you're going to take 5 big breaths, let's do that now. And it'll be like I'm working with a child in front of me. So it means they can be independent, and if they need to just disappear into a corner and not have the whole world watching them, I can talk them through that. Then there's going to be movement breaks to increase the body speed. Sometimes they just need a transition. That's like a 3-minute movement break, high intensity with 1 big breath at the end. So there'll be that to raise the body speed.
In terms of autism, obviously what you're talking about is useful for every child in the class. Are there specific advantages you're finding with kids with autism in your class that they're getting from it?
Yeah, absolutely. The reason why this is so good, actually, it comes from my training with autism, and it's the other way around. I found that it benefits all of the children, but the whole thing was really created because of children with additional needs and autism who were finding it difficult to manage their normal school day, and also my personal experience with that. So that was the first thing, really, and it just happens that everybody else really benefits from it. It's very visual. Children with autism often need things to be very, very visual. So each step on the daily 5, you follow along. It's not all about just listening to instructions. They can, there's the visual backup of that. It's very clear. It's step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. It's predictable. We use the same music on purpose, so that there is a familiarity the children. So if I change the movements, or if the scene is different, the music is the same. So that also supports them, just things that are secure for them. The daily 5 are filmed outside. That's on purpose. 2 reasons, really. One is, a lot of children with autism might find it difficult to go outside for many, many reasons. And this is a step for them, so that they're not having to deal with the other sensory challenges that they would be facing, but they get to experience the peaceful attributes of the nature as well. Others need to escape. They don't want to be inside, and this gives them a way to access being outside when they feel trapped in their inside. So it's very specifically filmed outside for that reason. The breathing and the core movement breaks, children with autism wouldn't necessarily have a stronger core strength. And these movement breaks are specifically used to start to increase balance and core strength and be aware of the body and where it goes and how it moves, which can be challenging to children with autism. And also self-regulation of emotions. I mean, it's a very difficult thing for a child with autism to learn how to do that. So these things are very specifically made for children with autism in mind.
Is there an order so that the videos that are on your website, what's the first one a parent or teacher should check out?
The first one I would go to, there is an introduction to resilience, introduction to the Daily 5 and resilience for parents or grown-ups. I would look at that first, and then I explain in that, now sit with the children and watch the introduction to the Daily 5, what is resilience for kids. So those two go together really. You know, so that the adults can watch the one, but specifically for them first, but then as a collective watch it together, and then that will direct them to the Daily 5. There's also little chats if you want to explore. For example, there's a one on courage. What is courage? That they're the extras, they're the additions, but the Daily 5 would really be what you would do. You would do one and take a week to do it. You don't do the right, we'll have courage one day and do patience the next day. And it's all about building that strength, particularly with the movements, to practice them every day. You know, they need to repeat them. So that's the good thing about this resource, that only 5 videos should actually last you half a term. Okay,
so the teacher's time investment really is watching those first introductions.
Yes,
it seems very easy onboarding, that they don't have a lot to learn, it's just they do it with the class.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they just do it with the class, and they can talk. Well, it explains it all really to them as to what their part would be in that. But it's a very easy access. You know, my biggest gift to teachers right now is to give them something that they just press play. You know, we don't want a load of other things to learn or another course to go on or another, you know, realistically, you just press play and do it with them and watch what happens. And that, as a teacher, is the best thing I could give other teachers, because I know the reality of it.
This interview was part of our Publishers and Manufacturers series of interviews. If you'd like more information on the products that were discussed in the interview, please go to the portal Assistive Technology section and start a conversation. Thanks for watching.